Welcome, cadets, to Starfleet Academy, a Star Trek podcast by Phantastic Geek. My name is Matt, and all rise for Admiral Pete. Hello, Pete.
You're the best teacher I ever had. Starfleet Academy, a Star Trek podcast by Phantastic Geek for episode 106. Come, let's away. Comes to you now via tiny fireflies.
And news from the fleet before this episode leaves orbit. Pete, let us go to the galaxy far, far away and talk the Mandalorian and Grogu movie with its talked about Super Bowl commercial.
Yes, and that there is a planned follow-up to that Super Bowl commercial, a trailer, very soon.
Certainly people are talking about the movie. I do wonder, Pete, some of the negative discussion about the Super Bowl commercial, how much of that is your standard, I hate Star Wars because I hate all things, how much of it is legit. I was maybe less wowed by it than you, but you know what? Give us a nice 2.5 minute, good old fashioned trailer with razzle dazzle and dramatic crescendo as you show the title or some sort of tagline like "In an age of despair, heroes will rise" or something like that, where you go, "Yeah, I could be a hero too." You're sometimes you're only as good as your last trailer. Sometimes you're only as good as your next trailer.
$10 million per 30 seconds, I think they maximized it, right? Otherwise, it would have been, hey, Mandalorian and Grogu 2-minute trailer now online. Go watch that. To imitate the Budweiser Clydesdale commercials of the Super Bowl and days both past and present, to the point where I was like, oh, all right, it's a Clydesdale commercial. Oh no, wait, those are Tauntauns. Okay, here we go. And now that both the marketing and the merchandising have fully kicked into high gear. John Favreau was in New York City the other day for big merchandise uh, rollout, all sorts of things come in, many of which Pete has poured a lot of his pre-order money into the past couple days. Um, yeah, it's coming. It's here. People are discounting this movie. There is a reason this is tied to Memorial Day. This is going to be a far bigger hit than people anticipate. And go ahead and sleep on it, okay? And when you've got 7 years now of Grogu, of Baby Yoda, okay, of immediate nostalgia to tap into, on top of all the fun that is going to come in this oversized adventure. Yeah, sleep on The Mandalorian and Grogu at your own peril.
Well, Pete, I suppose by that same mindset there, the same could be said, pro and con, about Marvel. Marvel looking to be the little engine that could to make its comeback with a small Avengers movie this December, but we're getting some Disney Plus Marvel goodness this summer. What's going on there?
The Punisher One Shot Special is the official title of the show that is coming, that will happen after season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. Not sure where it will coincide, before, after Spider-Man Brand New Day, and that is considering Burnball's Punisher's involvement in that film. So that'll be very interesting when it's dropped.
I'm glad that Marvel has not given up on the, let's say, pre-COVID Disney Plus vision of Marvel movies, TV shows, the one, the other, back and forth, which is a very comics thing. Sometimes it's exhausting as a comics reader because it's like, what will happen to the Punisher wounded in Spider-Man 278? Go read Punisher 312, then come back. But it's all to bolster sales, interaction, and so forth. Um, COVID isn't Disney's fault. The strike, Disney strikes. Disney deserves um, more than its fair share or more than an equal share of blame there. But neither of those are Marvel things. And it really is a good plan. You should be able to either get done with the Marvel one shot when he says, now I'm going to help that old web head. You should be excited. Or if it's in the reverse, where you get done with the Spider Man movie and he says, oh man, now I'm off to whatever. Oh yeah, now I'm excited for the thing on Disney Plus. In a perfect world, that's what we're doing. And it's a good plan. It's just been mismanaged by extraordinary circumstances. So I'm glad they're sticking with it.
To DC Studios, Matt, where Supergirl sat out the Super Bowl, but Crypto had a Puppy Bowl trailer.
Yeah, you referenced the cost of Super Bowl commercials, and sometimes, is there logic to, for example, Supergirl releasing a trailer around the time of the Super Bowl, but not exclusively during the game itself? I guess time will tell. We'll see what that advertising is like. We'll see what that summer box office business is like. But Puppy Bowl, Puppy Crypto, I mean, built in, ready to go, adorable. It's a zig against the zag, and I was like that. So that's checking yes in a bunch of boxes.
And rounding back to Star Trek, Matt, where Starfleet Academy has been canceled yet again.
Again, Pete, is it going to be canceled before the first season is made? No, we're watching that. It's going to be canceled after the first. No, because they're already filming I know they're almost done with the second season. Tell me about this cancellation here.
They are in the middle of filming episode 209 in Toronto, yet there are people, or are they, who are consistently saying that the show is canceled.
You can watch this show and not like it. You can not watch this show and not like it. Um, to claim that a thing that is in production is not going to happen. I mean, my goodness, to whatever degree, Pete, this entire 2 season, 20 episode um, product has some sort of arc to it because it was, I'm assuming it was kind of pre greenlit for season two before season one. They liked what they saw. It was early on in the process that they announced for season two. Um, does it does it really make financial sense at this point to be like, stop, don't do episode 210, like just don't make it, man? Well, okay, then that erodes the previous 19 expenditures of money that were the previous 19 episodes versus, let's say, Pete, the streaming numbers are terrible, or whatever the concerns, real or imagined, are. Okay, put the roof on the house and then say, now we have a problem, versus there's no roof on the house, now it's even worse. So
Certainly not with the cost of these shows, the idea that that would go away. And just understanding the time frame too. Season one um, filmed from August of 2024 until February of 2025. It was renewed for a second season in October of 2024. So they were well into shooting. There is misinformation out there. Oh, no, no, no. They were given one season of 20 episodes and it was divided into two 10 episodes. You're going to say that you are completely unknowledgeable about what Star Trek has been for the past number of years. 10 episodes. You get 10 episodes. That's what it is. Okay. So they were renewed in October. They began shooting season two in August of 2025. It's February. They're filming 209. Similar time frames. Okay. I would imagine, given the buzz, yes, buzz about Starfleet Academy, okay, particularly coming off the high watermark of last week's Cisco Deep Space Nine homage. Uh, Probably going to hear about a third season renewal pretty soon.
well, time will certainly tell on that. And now class is in session.
Caleb and Tamara sitting on a bench. FRENCH.
Pete, this Valentine's weekend, this episode is about love and the making of love. Gene would be proud of this moment. Both the two characters sharing intimacies, but also some really horny Delton details. Did you know that Gene worked really hard Star Trek Phase Two slash Star Trek the Motion Picture to make the Deltons bald horn dogs that are so horny that they need to like take vows of chastity, and that was all Gene. None of this is a joke or a bit. Gene would be so proud of this because boy, did he like this kind of stuff.
How dare they use Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek in Star Trek, Matt? But from the bench overlooking Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, things go to Caleb's quarters at warp speed where they need to stay hydrated.
Uh, It's quite a moment. Pete, here the episode opened with some sort of warning about strobing lights and so forth, and immediately we're into the making of love. There you go. Um, we don't linger on this too long. There's flashes of telepathy and such. We find ourselves in Caleb's memory, his mind merging with the boudoir. A very nice presentation here of the quarters that spill out onto this yellow flower field and so forth. We see Pete, our fabulous robot toy, named.
Scrap.
Thank you. I knew you would know it. Followed by flashes of Caleb's tragic past. But she didn't do it on purpose. He is hurt by the imposition of this. It's our classic. Will they, won't they? They were, now they're not. She is dressing. He kind of presents it as a weird Betazoid thing. But Pete, it's a Tarima thing.
Yes, we later learned the Field of Flowers was the safe space for Tarima, but just want to point out what a great job they did in the casting of the child actor and the way when Caleb pulls back here, that Sandro Rasta, uh, you know, goes to that look, and we can see the child actor in him. Um, really, really well done, and the shock at what's taken place here through Tarima's abilities.
It is one example of many in this episode, and certainly one I'll hit with Vance later in our chronology, that is just well shot, interestingly shot. So kudos to director Larry Tang. Um, Sometimes the job of a television director is to come in and work with the actors because the director is the new person, so everybody else kind of knows the visual language, or when you do a shaky cam and it's the director of photography who's shaking the cam anyway, and kind of, that's not to downplay the role of the director, but this is an above average visual presentation in this scene and later on. And again, I can only give kudos to Larry Tang and of course the rest of the team.
As the Athena jumps out of warp near the starship graveyard, Commandant Ake explains that there was a time that they could jump all over Federation territory without a second thought, but that is no longer the case here. Post burn, Starfleet, the Federation, still putting things back together, and as cadets and future officers here, they have to prepare for anything. Hence, this training site and the USS Miyazaki that the War College has been using for crisis response.
I'll mention, Pete, yes, you're absolutely correct. They are in a ship graveyard. It's not just any ship graveyard, though. It's in an the obligatory visually interesting nebula that gives us backlighting and mystery and kind of mists and all of that.
Nothing is ever just in space. It must be, and ever since the Wrath of Khan, it must be set in a nebula.
But that witty observation aside, what a great concept for this episode. Yes, we are about to go bigger threat, uh, echoes that will move forward in I'm imagining future episodes and things of that sort. But if the concept of this show is kids going to learn in school, the notion of we're going to this shipwreck, which by the way, we've been to before. We know it's like vaguely kind of dangerous, but it's a great real world scenario to practice crisis response. P.S. There is no actual real crisis, so there is room to make mistakes, to learn as cadets and young people. What a great, well, and the language of the episode. What a great cloak to the fact that this is actually like part of the ongoing myth, and this is a more a serial episode as opposed to a standalone. None of that I sensed here, as they explained the Miyazaki had an experimental singularity drive. Oh, okay, that's why it's damaged. Um, and all were lost on it. And then we get the mission concept, the educational mission concept spelled out here. Half of at least some, there's a variety of teams here, but half will board the ship to simulate crisis response. The other half will support from the Athena, so bridge crew. And you have an hour. And when the first two teams are either successful or unsuccessful, then there's more teams. We only see blue and red, and then green on standby. But again, it gives this great feeling of there's green and yellow and purple and orange, and how they're going to be there for a while as the great unseen kiddos try this as well. If Pete, everything goes to plan.
The Miyazaki bound blue team, led by the future late commander Tomoff.
Um, I hated to lose him. I know in my notes here, either here or in a little bit, um, I kind of refer to him as, oh man, he's a great new addition, great new recurring character, and I'm writing it knowing, of course, he bites it. But he was I mean, I would have loved to see more of him. He's personable. He's kind of like tough, but not, listen to me, you space maggots, kind of tough. Um, we have him deploying the plasma based life systems. Pete, everything from the animated series is new again. I love that we've now come so far that that conceit in the animated series of we're going to put a glowy thing around you. We don't need spacesuits. We're just going to recycle animation, or in this case, have actors act. And now we just have a spacesuit thing that we can put over you. It doesn't need to be, boots and gloves and whatnot. So Tomov is with Blue Team and their plasma-based life system. Red Team is on the bridge. Um, and Kelrek is happy that there's a high bar of challenge here, which I know we're kind of supposed to root against him, but also, yeah, we want our cadets, steel sharpens steel and all of that. Again, great concept for an episode where things will go sideways before too long.
We have fewer of our familiar cadets on the red team, Darren and Genesis there. We've got Tamira goes to sick bay with the doctor, where her storyline, along with that of her brother connected to uh, their friends, will play out. And we've, of course, got Caleb and Crag and Sam, not to mention uh, really kind of a MVP in this episode in the War College's also future late Bobby.
Couple of things. First of all, kudos to actor Alexander Ealing, who plays Bobby. Only 3 episodes, but made a mark. Also, I appreciate the entire production that Pete, I don't know that his name was pronounced before this episode. Perhaps it was in
It
passing, but
was.
okay. I like that it's Bavi and not like Bavi. I only say that because when it's like later on in the episode, when it's like Bavi, no, like it's kind of like It's Bobby. Pete, it's the Vulcan Bobby. It's Bobby. He's just a guy. He's a guy like Kyle. He does his thing. He's a little Vulcan weird. He likes his war college, but just as we're getting to see him in a good light in this episode, the story giveth, and of course later on the story will taketh.
So heading over as they do the elevator ride here, Bobby talks about the comic book here that led him to the War College Tales from the Frontier, Bats, that we'll discuss in theories. There's some artistic criticism behind.
I hope it's not that it's AI that ripped off from
It
another artist.
is.
Of course it
It
was.
it is.
Um,
I cannot confirm that it is AI. That is the criticism of it.
I will share as the briefest of tangents, lest I forget later. I saw somebody online claimed that the Star Trek 60th, cavalcade of ships stole from their own personal designs. And I do have to admit, Pete, it did cross my mind. Wait a minute. To be fair, I think Paramount owns the designs of those ships in that they are like Star Trek property. So if you draw your own, I don't know that Paramount is necessarily stealing from you, but just wanted to mention that. Um, we have, as you mentioned, Pete, this really nice introduction here, regardless of the source of the art, the Tales from the Frontier that does not get presented as a goofy comic book. I mean, I guess it does in passing, but its importance in the story is not heralded here. It's just, oh, it's something that the kids have read, that some of the kids have been inspired by. Caleb calls it propaganda. Bobby calls it inspiring. Doubtless, Pete, if we go to the Star Trek shop right now, there'll be a copy of it. No, I don't even need to look. It's probably not there. But missed opportunity. Here is where, Pete, again, we see Tomov. He's a nice guy, firm but personable. And in my notes, tongue in cheek here, or maybe I'm trying to push away the tears. Maybe he's going to be like a Nog or a Morn or a Garrick and come back one day, except sob. Pete, he won't.
But we head over, Matt, to the darkened sets of Strange New Worlds, where they also use the plastic interior tube barrier from the first episode of the second season of Star Trek Discovery.
Pete, I don't mean, or rather, should I say, neither you nor I like to shine too much of a light on, the troll mentality here. But can I guess that there are hardcore Star Trek fans that are upset that Star Trek has reused sets like all the time Star Trek has
Planet
reused
Hell,
sets? Not just Planet Hell,
or
like,
the rocks outside of Los Angeles.
or that the Enterprise D battle bridge was the Kirk movie
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise bridge, that also that same space was, let's see, the courtroom in any Next Generation courtroom episode. It was the science lab. It was Lowell's science lab. This is all just off the top of my head. Like, did I when they were in the tube? I was like, I think we've seen the tube like that before. In the Enterprise helps Discovery, or Discovery helps Enterprise evacuate. When we get on the bridge, I'm like, oh man, all those plastic tarps. I think that's the Enterprise bridge. Good job, guys, using stuff you have, being smart. This is not a story. They're on this old fashioned bridge. Yes, it's 100 years, not 900, but it's all the zero criticism here. As the mission gets underway, and in this tunnel here, it is Caleb who hacks the port with programmable matter. That is not forbidden. That's thinking outside the box. So we get a little character moment there, multiple character moments, since Bobby is saying, "Wait, you did not tell me I could do this." Um, Life support is restored, and Pete, it's just a jaunty mission here back to Athena, where Ake and Thok are getting in on some friendly bets about how the kids will do, because they're all in support of the learning.
The shore leave bet here, um, and even Tomov gets involved in that, and no sooner has the wager been made that they have established the power over on the Miyazaki.
And everything going great here, but Pete, almost in some sort of dramatic turn here, Darum is getting odd readings. Wait, those aren't Starfleet readings. It's also not part of the exercise. There's 15, nay, 30 power sources en route. All of a sudden, the Miyazaki is being boarded. A lot of this, I think, to the credit of the story. In fact, I think because I watched the episode twice and it's only occurring to me now, this whole thing's going sideways. It's just said, like, we don't even get great computer animations of like, look, or we don't get Furies beaming in. Like, it's so fast, and we are kind of glued to the Athena bridge as we see a crisis unfolding. It feels very authentic in a show that by itself is not, our world authentic. Get blue team out of there. Wait, the transport signals are blocked, which is just a great old Star Trek tool. No criticism. Um, uh, Ring Ring says the space phone, and it's a Scraw of the Furies, and great mask design here, and whatever their effect is of the warping. I know it's a Star Trek term. I don't mean it in a Star Trek sense, but the twisting lens flare, whatever that is, never seen it
Phasing.
before. Phasing. I've never seen it before just as a highlight to a baddie. And it's also not something where it's like, oh, because they're phasing, let's find the phase harmonics. It's just a creepy way to highlight creepy masks and make these nightmare monsters. And kudos all around.
Yeah, I think left to the design without the special effect, it's like, oh, all right, they're kind of all twisted and whatever. It adds to the characterization here. Uh, they are hungry. They are seeking to fill their bellies here, possibly of some cadets. Um, and as we head into the credits left hanging on the Miyazaki at the moment of highest peril.
It had me wondering, just for the briefest of moments, when does a production think about making a change to their opening credits based on the body of an episode? I mean, it's kind of real stakes here. Like, baddies will eat the cadet children soon or else. And then we kind of get jaunty optimism of the seed turns into the academy. At the end of the day, it's a cost issue. I totally get it. But that just crossed my mind. We come out of the credits with the doctor again affirming for the cadets, nay, Pete, perhaps for we, the Kobayashi Maru jaded audience, to really say, no, this is no drill. Which again, it's just occurring to me now. At no point was I like, maybe this is a big fake. They just sell it as, again, the reality of it. Green Team is put into the handy classroom. Ake and Kelrek talk with Vance in the first of many great uses of Vance on the holophone, but appearing real, except for the little static flickers. There's a great shot later on that I will highlight. Um, this is just a wonderful use of that, to have him there, to not overdo it, to not turn it into overly massaged for special effects. And Pete, tell us more about those Furies.
Yeah, so the cloaked vessel nearby here, that hence the 5 hour window that they probably can't maintain it that much longer. And Ake wants to know if they're going to pay the ransom, which Vance says that they will. They have the latinum to do that. Um, but even if they pay them, the Fury's reputation is such that they can't trust for the safe return of the hostages, which creates a whole new level of, shall we say, concern within Ake's mind.
We also learned that Scraw has this, fantastically scary prison break record here. The frontal assault won't work because of all these factors. But, says Vance, Noose Braca has fought the Furies. Um, Perhaps it's an enemy of my enemy is someone with a specialized weapon. Vance thinks that maybe they can tempt him out of hiding, again, in what is a rather fast moving episode. It's also an episode that is relying on kind of I don't know. I'll say workplace intel. I know workplace makes it sound like the office and can we sell more paper, but it's just kind of like I buy the reality of this really fake Star Trek thing where Kelrec goes, "How can you know this?" And Vance is saying, "Well, there's security this, there's rumors that, there's intel reports such and such, so we think he's kind of maybe over there, but we're not really hunting for like all of that I just kind of buy. It sounds authentic enough, and in the interim, Kelrec is ready to put the cadets to the test as these larger issues with the larger ranked folks are being worked out.
But back over to the Miyazaki here, we have our cadets and lieutenant commander as hostage. Um, and it's Tomov who's going to try to lead them in an uprising here, gesturing to Bobby what he's going to try. And in the melee here, it falls to Tomov to make the sacrifice. Kyle catches some damage as well, but Tomov clears the cadets before he gets jumped. And you get the sense that even before they airlock him, he was already done.
Yeah, and again, kudos to the story that makes us care for Tomov, only for him to pay the ultimate price after what is this his third scene?
Yeah.
Um, the cadets go to the bridge comms of the Miyazaki. The comms are down, wounds are attended to, doors are sealed. The bridge kind of is secured. Bavi intuits that help has not come because the Furies have some sort of tactical advantage. Great conclusion from a Vulcan cadet here. Caleb, showing his character, is surprised by the sacrifice, but of course, of all people, Bavi can quote Spock's needs of the many speech here. And with that, knock knock, the secure bridge is not secure enough. Caleb tries to get through to the computer, but it's Sam who can use her skill set to get it booted back up. Particulars are spread over undamaged fragments here and there, and she's going to try to stitch it all together. Again, like, you could be pessimistic and say, oh man, this is a mission where each character's superpower is able to contribute. Okay, how about this is a story where each character is able to shine based on what they can do?
On the Athena bridge, Ake, Kelrek, and Vance arrive for Thok to explain something was just ejected from the Miyazaki's airlock, and then the chilling discovery by everybody on the bridge, including our hyperventilating cadet who gets to go to sickbay, that it was Tomov and real stakes here for this training exercise, which segues into another airlock where we welcome back the eventually named Nustifer Braka.
The way he returns here, yes, we've talked previously. It's Paul Giamatti, Emmy winner, Oscar nominee, etc. It's a great get. He's playing the part he wants to play. It's as much commitment as he wants. This with this return, it's kind of so heralded. And yes, clearly after this episode, we're going to get more of him. But this is the first time where I was like, maybe he will show up again in season two. And if not, you're going to kill him off in glorious fashion by the end of season one. Regardless, the guns are drawn, the finger rings are click clacking and whatnot. The hills are alive with the sounds of murder. Um, he's given a tasting tour of tequila. It's just
Are these so that's not a favorite of mine? Are these adjectives real, like, sought after uh things for tequila, cat pee and creamy flatworm, or are these just affectations?
I will say, Pete, a quick search on the Goog for Añejo tequila adjectives. It seems like at least this AI looks for things like toasted oak, vanilla, butterscotch, plum, cherry, cinnamon. So maybe that's
Okay.
just particular his particular way of tasting the
Fancy
world.
tequila talk.
Yeah, or it's I, I, or it just, like he. I wonder if they will ever have the time to explore not Giamatti here, but is Nusbraka playing a character who's always this terrible and always whatever, um, always just so like he can't even say, "Oh, I taste hints of oak." Regardless, he recognizes this really hospitable welcome because they need him. Now they see his value. As for this rumor of his magic weapon, he knows what he can and he knows what he can't do. He can't control those savages, which on second view, he's there to run the counterintelligence plan. He's there to reel them in, and he's doing that by pushing them away, saying, "I couldn't possibly help because these guys are so terrible. The Furies hate themselves. They don't put business first." Um, we get some smuggling and trade route particulars here, Pete, and you're the Star Wars guy. Take us into a lengthy discussion here about T-Tauri and dilithium because just maybe there's a blockade.
Tangenta 1 and Tangenta 4. Yeah, basically, he's spinning the web that we can see in the long view of this episode of all right, here's my problem. I know your problem, and what he doesn't want to have is a bunch of cold rock to Gino on his hands there ever since the Federation Starfleet has been supplying dilithium to Tagenta 1. So back off helping people so uh, Braca can help himself.
It does occur to me in this two-hander recap of his scene that you and I both needed to both needed to contribute to. It was so substantial. Um, I don't know that we need all those details. Some of it might be we need to give Giamatti great stuff to monologue
Hmm.
over. So that's not really a complaint. I'm just opening the hood a little bit to say, unless we go back to Tangenta 1 or unless we go back to the routes with the wormhole that doesn't work, or unless we return to all of it, it really is just stuff for him to do. And he does it so well. Again, I'll return to the theme of it's taken me watching the episode twice and now reflecting on it for the podcast to say, oh, wait, here's how the narrative of it works here. Um, but Vance is off to go work on some of these particulars. I love that Braca is flirty with Ake, but she doesn't think of him at all. She does not see him as fair nor equal, but she will have to sit and listen to him, which we will. It's a slightly jarring moment. Um, we feel as though we are seeing Ake in a vulnerable way, and I love that she's running her own counter intelligence attempt here
Hmm.
to let him sit and continue the monologue in further scenes.
It's a scene that obviously we leave it. If this was Marvel, we'd be asking, okay, was this written straight through? And then they found they needed to cross cut in between. But Kelrec is told on the bridge here uh, by Red Team, specifically Genesis, that there's some debris and that the Fury ship is moving through the cloud there. So they know that there's someplace out there. They just need to adjust to be able to find them. Okay. Rare, um, magnanimous moment from Darum, who says it was Genesis mostly. And they're going to use this trick to track the Furies.
This is such a I'll say busy. Don't mean that as a complicate as a criticism. Such a busy or complicated episode that I think it would have been easy to leave uh, cadet progress out of the script. You know, to not have these little moments, as you're saying here, for example. Look, Darum has a little bit of an arc. He is being a good team player. He's putting the mission above himself. Um, it's a slightly longer than average episode. It has special guest star Paul Giamatti, where we have Vance, we have, you know, all the grown-ups are here. Many of the grown-ups are here. Kudos to this story and kudos to this show for still saying, no, we can have a little moment here. We can have a little moment there. We can be reminded that Caleb is self-centered based on his own history. We can have a moment later on where seemingly just for characterization, Darum receives the update that Caleb and Tarima are a thing now. Like these are they haven't lost sight of the fact that these are characters in a dramatic situation as opposed to a story where characters do things.
It's a little Deus Ex Machina that Sam can just put her hands into the 100-year-old console and interact with it and try to read it. Yes, there's the whole hallucination that it's having, playing back what had happened, that the escape pods are launching, that the Cap is in sick bay, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But this alongside the peril that they're under as they've got the Furies on the other side of the door. And then the idea, well, let's feed the Tales from the Frontier, the historical record, through the ship's computer to try to catch it up to date.
Yeah, which I think is a rather novel twist and turn.
Graphic novel.
Pete. Um, I think vaguely built into the foundation of the idea is what if the story of a Star Trek can inspire? But it's not about that. It's not it's not like some of these more self-referential episodes or fan service episodes. It feels wholly baked into what we've learned about this story, that's Tales of the Frontier. What we've learned about, in merely the last half hour, but it feels it's just a great story tool there. Um, while the computer is showing the comic, Caleb hears Tarima's voice. She's able to report back to the classroom, soon to the bridge, her own bridge, that there's confusion going on with Caleb. We go back to Nosbraka's monologue with Ake about her experience of time, her long life. Indeed, the notion that unless her life is not ended unnaturally, she essentially has endless life. So that means that endings have a decreased meaning. This just pours with characterization.
Mhm.
Doesn't that mean that since essentially she's on a path of decreased meaning, that she's not actually a good candidate to teach kids who exist in a finite existence? Uh, and as for the loss of her own son, it's like the loss on the Miyazaki. Um, oh, and Caleb is on this same path now as a ruined child, being a hostage, his terrible past. Um, this is kind of all just delicious flourish here. It is very interesting insight into Ake, which I had not stopped to consider before. Even though, again, theoretically, it's kind of not advancing the plot in terms of he's not saying, here's how to build the weapon, or if you punch me 10 times, I might tell you how to do it. It's just in the moment. He is a sadist. He is a flirt. He is terrible. He is delaying things by his own
Mhm.
secret plan. Just wonderful across the board.
The heart of this episode is two heavyweights going toe to toe, right? Okay. Um, let's leave the episode momentarily to go to some real world criticism of Holly Hunter, who had a speech impediment as a child. that somebody on one of the Star Trek socials, I believe it was on their Facebook page, criticized, okay, and used um, Captain Janeway's uh, identity in the criticism. And who but Kate Mulgrew herself came to the rescue and straight up airlocked that commenter.
I mean, look, Holly Hunter, Oscar winner, four-time Oscar nominee, two-time Emmy winner. She, she walks around giving esteemed performances, let alone, in another venue, she's beloved for the Incredibles movies. There's, I don't know. It's low hanging fruit indeed to say, oh, here's how she speaks, or here's her mouth shape, or here. I mean, that's not even like I disagree with how this Star Trek show is conceived because X Y Z. Even if your reasons are ridiculous, like that's just going after somebody as a person, which is well, Pete. If Kate Mulgrew comes and airlocks you, you got it coming because Kate Mulgrew is the grand dame in that regard. I'll take her word, every day and twice on Sunday.
That the Veneri Rahl are aware, and particularly Braca, of what Ake did, that she chose everybody else instead of her son and the ship that he was on, that she chose to help more. He's identified the weakness. Um, and this standoff that they're in, and the ability to put, again, these two performers in a room and just let them go at one another here. Okay. This is truly the gravy that you throw on top of the school based drama.
Well, that's just it. I don't want to say that a fear that we had about this show was that it was going to be all kids with like, okay, we got Oscar winner Holly Hunter as nominally the lead, but she's barely there, and we're going to phase her out by the end of the first season. So then it's like the kids doing kid stuff. Um, I don't think I fully appreciated the notion that a Starfleet Academy show could be about cadets and the people teaching the cadets and how that could be 50-50. Some weeks more one versus the other. Um, then you add Paul Giamatti and the whole story of his interest in Star Trek, where it just presents this opportunity uh, that in this episode, indeed in most, again, I don't think any of it has been for we ever young folks, you and I, Pete, and all our listeners, who, regardless of our numerical age, we're all teenagers at heart. But I don't think any of these episodes have been like, oh man, what do you mean? I just want to race my space pod and play my space next generation the game. Like there's been more nuance to it, regardless of the characters' ages. Um, but they have these great tools here, so why not have the adult moment in an episode that really is everybody's in adult situations.
Yeah. So back to somebody who's been in adult situations recently in Tamira, that she explains to Ake and Kelrek that she can see them, and then to have her brother rise to her defense here, uh, with a very prominent depiction of her psychic inhibitor. That when she was a child, she got upset and she blew out the auditory um, cortex of her father. That's why he does not speak, that he signs. So the context of that all coming clear. And then the joke that it worked out for everybody because he was trying to teach himself the trumpet that week.
I will say a bit earlier in this scene, Brother Occam says, Betazoids are betazoids. They sense stuff. Now, Pete, you might say, oh, I'm going to be critical of the youthful way in which he said that. No, 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 no. I think a fair criticism that I have heard about the Betazoid presentation in this series is as follows. Hold on. Deanna Troy could read emotions, not read everybody's mind, because she was half Betazoid, half human. Aren't Betazoids supposed to read people's minds and their emotions? I would agree. I thought Betazoids could read people's minds. I suspect maybe, Pete, the people making this show might have forgotten of that fact, and the power of Deanna Troy has maybe taken over the definition of Betazoid. So I think there might be a legit, um, but albeit minor, story issue here. Um, I think that it was explainable earlier on with Terima and this psilocybin dampening block that she has. So if you want to say, well, the rules are different for her because she's different and she has this thing that addresses the difference, okay. But I would say, Occam, Betazoids don't sense stuff. They can read minds. I am pretty sure.
I think it was more of an exterior situation for these other characters, for these non Betazoid characters, and even by extension to simplify for a new audience brought to this, right? Like Betazoid comes with so many things. You've watched Star Trek, you know what a Betazoid is. If you are new and you don't know what that is, you're learning here. Yes, they sense things, but she is, as Alchemist said, she's more than that. That she can establish these long uh, distance connections and the gambit of what they're going to do here to communicate uh, with the blue team.
Well, that's not the only gambit, Pete, because Kelrec notes that in the past, attempts have been made to restart the singularity drive on the Miyazaki. That's what the cadets should try and do now as a hedge against some of these other options. Great use of like the security guy saying, while you work on some things, I have different tools. Let's have that merely as a backup. Let's have the sniper option even as you prepare other options. That is, if engineering can be reached. We go back to the cadets, where the Miyazaki computer now understands that cadets are friends, friends are crew, and after dramatic delay, the force fields are put up, chopping off a Fury arm with some dark humor there. Problem solved for now. And I really enjoyed the iconic shot of the physical hole in the bridge door, buoyed now by the force field as Bavi looks through it. I've never seen anything like that in Star Trek, I don't think, and it's such a simple idea. And we've had force fields since classic Trek, and it's just again a great shot here, Larry Tang.
And then the catch up between Kelrec and Ake, that she's working him as much as he's attempting to work her. That she senses that he has problems with the Furies, and that there's an opening there for them to explore.
The doctor gives Terima the message that she will in turn give to Blue Team as she is put under. Um, Ake returns to Nuss, giving him all that he wants. Once he gives them the info on this weapon here, she notes, Pete, that cowards always have multiple agendas because they know deep down that they are failures. I know who you're talking about, Star Trek. But they don't have time to linger. Time to share this info and get off the ship, Noose Braca. And then, because we're zipping along, Pete, we have Ake telling everybody else the Furies are part bat alien thing. We also get inserted into the story that Starbase J-19 Alpha, because I guess we just can't call it like Starbase 12, um, has an Intrepid class ship that can emit the sonic weapon. Bing, bang, boom. The cloak can fall once that sonic weapon is used. They'll be able to beam the cadets out. Kelrek still says to run the singularity drive plan as a backup, and Ake sends Tarima's mind in. This is there's a reason this episode is an hour long. It just has all sorts of cogs and wheels as the story moves forward.
Yeah, those part linar bat-like furies that the Sargasso will use the sonic weapon on, but we can already see in retrospect, right? You take away the defense from Starbase J-19 Alpha, where they make experimental weapons. A lot to talk about when we get to theories there. Okay, but back in goes Tarima, establishes the contact with Caleb here, um, and tells him that he needs to tell Bobby to run tiny fireflies, uh, that he'll know what it means. Um, we can workshop the name another time, so that when he comes out of it, he gives the order to the bridge, get it done, do it. Um, and then back on the Athena bridge, Ake in the chair, ready to execute this with the help of Cadet Genesis.
Genesis has found the Fury ship, and when the Sargasso arrives, it's going to use its sonic weapon. I just want to point that out, Pete. That we've been told multiple times that they can make the sonic weapon happen en route, because that's not going to be the case when it arrives. Um, we have some more reflection here on that highly classified tech. As you mentioned, the Sargasso arrives. Now it needs 2 minutes to prep the weapon, and they're in this area. And we've been told by the Furies, any ship within 1 light year, and we're going to, immediately eat all the kids or do bad things or call off the deal. But apparently the baddies, who I know, Pete, are not the actual baddies as presented, but the rules of engagement have now been that were agreed upon have now been broken, that the story set up a while ago. So do you have any answer there, or am I missing any nuance? Because I feel like the Sargasso should arrive, fire its weapon. Instead, it's gonna like lumber around for 2 minutes while the Furies see it cruising around.
I think it's kind of battle logic, right? In that you can, the battle plan is that no plan survives contact with the enemy. Um, but in the midst of all of this, that they've reestablished the connection with the singularity drive, working on that, um, and uh, the message, Matt, that Darum comes across, that I'm yelling at the screen when it says they took. I'm like, they took the bait. That's what's coming across the screen right now.
Um, totally agreed. Although at least with cross cutting, it's perhaps not. I would agree, Pete. It is largely obvious. We can see things are going sideways here, but intercut with that, they're trying to restart the singularity drive. Um, Perhaps Bavi and Caleb can be like the legendary captain of the Miyazaki. So we have that reminder there. Sometimes a Star Trek can lift you up. But indeed, it's a trap. The Fury vessel is decloaking its Venari Ral. The Sargasso has been disabled but not destroyed. Phew. Um, and Ake orders the singularity drive indeed started. It churns to life with energy that looks like tiny fireflies. But the bridge is about to be attacked. A firefight begins. Phaser fire mixes with hand to hand combat. Sam is downed. Things aren't looking too good. On the Athena, Tarima has pulled out her blocker, which, Pete, I thought was some sort of handy Star Trek Next Generation era, like LED with a little bit of like, makeup glue and like a little battery in there that you just press on there. Instead, it's got this like lengthy tube that's now got blood on it. And it just, it
Mm-hmm.
was that little addition made it feel so visceral because you can just imagine like, okay, when I thought it was a light, okay, it's like a future band-aid,
Goes
or
deep, man.
yeah, or like it's like in there, right? And you feel it. Um, her presence is now projected to the bridge of the Miyazaki. There is destruction. There is Pete, Caleb about to be shot, but Bavi, the security guy, makes the logical choice, jumps in front of the shot, takes the shot to the chest. No. We wail, Tarima wails. Pete, take us to the space of the mind.
In that mind space there, Tarima um, explaining where they are as um, the inhibitor is in her hand. There's a field of flowers where she grew up. That it was her sanctuary where she would hide when she was afraid. Afraid of what? Caleb asks. Afraid of herself. And then explaining that if he doesn't fear her, he's about to, as she lets loose with the screaming here, which I do need to understand. All right, it's directed like his way in the mind. I get that that's not an actual space, but then it's at the Furies on the bridge, and we again cross cut. It's kind of beautiful with the flowers and the petals, the buds being blown off there. Uh, Very emblematic of Discovery's design aesthetic from season 5 when they did that, whole um, the chase, uh, you know, plot with the way we've got the quarters inside the field of the flowers and the action happening there and the carnage on the bridge. Fury's lifted in the air, but our cadets are all very conveniently not touched. It would have felt a little bit more real if perhaps they would have been collateral damage.
I will give the story some wiggle room in that, Pete, we always say it, one line of dialogue. I don't need it necessarily here, given the trauma and drama of the moment. Um, if we get reference in the next couple episodes to, yes, she kind of had this explosion of power, but she was able to direct it, or her subconscious protected those she cared about. Like that's all. That's all it requires, and we're kind of so off the center of the reality that you and I and all of us exist in. If you want to say like, yeah, telepathic, mildly out of control people like this that can do a blast across space can still kind of direct it. Like there's so many X factors there where it's like, just tell me that she could do what she did. Yes, we saw that she didn't kill anybody. Just tell me that it was with intent as opposed to writerly flourish. Okay, I guess that's how it works. Um, Now, Pete, you did, however, mention collateral damage. I would like to say, not because of her actions, but though the day is saved, Bavi is gone, and the cadets are then beamed off. It's kind of almost a moment too soon. Although yes, the Venari Rawl ship is out there, and then the Venari Rawl ship leaves.
Pretty
Um,
cool effect how the different pieces of it all warp away at different points.
yes, I like that, and I liked, and it's far from the first time we've seen something like this, but like they warp away, and there's the 4 or 5 photon torpedoes where it's like, boom, now they just go out there. I did wonder, like, do they have like range finders where it's like, oh, we haven't exploded after hitting a thing after 1,000 kilometers. Let's now deactivate or neutralize or whatever. Otherwise, it's just gonna be out there in space. Some guy's gonna be driving his space tugboat in 2 years, and these things are going to come whipping along and hit him. But anyhow, space is big, whatever. Um, we get the confirmation here. All of this indeed was a trick. This, Pete, was the side story. The starbase was attacked by the Venari Rahl. It was ransacked. Losses are being calculated. The Discovery is still collecting escape pods. I like that the fanciest ship of the fleet, that's not the focus of this show, is still out there. Oh my goodness, Pete, I just had a theory pop into my head. I'm gonna have to save that for one of our upcoming segments. Um, and what I mean, look, every episode has some sort of drama, right? Even sometimes recurring characters or brand new characters get killed off. But this is where the weight starts to really sit on the chest of the audience. The threat in all of this was Nusbraka. Vance says that Ake shouldn't blame herself. It was Vance's plan, but Ake doesn't accept that. And she has a message from Nusbraka. Again, great use here of like the hollow things. So actor to actor, they get to have their moment, even though he gets to say, "I'm not, I'm not really here. You can trace me if you want." But hating her makes him better at his job. This across the cadets mourning the loss of Bavi. Tarima is in a coma, we are told. I didn't exactly see that one coming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Bracca's message notes that he sees Ake for who she is, but now he knows what she is capable of, Pete.
Sam getting checked out here in sick bay. Uh, Friends are told she'll be all right, just needs a specialist. Uh, and then Braca, because he's the real guest star of the episode, Matt Giamatti gets to explain to Ake here that the Federation's own special strain of bureaucratic chlamydia shot back at them here. Um, and uh, yeah, the real cost of this episode, of course, being two lives, um, a cadet in a coma here, experimental technology taken. We don't even know what it is. And then really getting in her head that getting the kid back, the trauma loop connection, and that he's still going to give her that one present, and we don't even know what it is.
And the episode just concludes with her looking off toward the camera pulling back, the weight of the moment earned as the episode concludes. I suppose I will mention now, Pete, after the conclusion of the episode for the credits, we don't get jaunty music. We just get the clicking sound of the
Uh
Furies.
huh.
So great is the echo and after effect, and well executed here.
Red alert. All hands stand to battle stations.
Pete, we have a tactical analysis of this week's threats. Let's start with those mysterious Furies.
I thought they were going to somehow say the Furies were connected to a species from the past. I'm glad they did not. Like, oh, the Borg evolved into the Furies or what have you. I'm glad that they're their own thing. Um, I don't know that we will see more of them, although pretty cool to carry them over. I guess why we have the phasing, because if we don't, they seem a little bit like a 32nd century version of who were the ones that had the phage? Who was that on Voyager?
Yeah, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Also, a quick search. The Vidians, no,
Vidians. Yeah, yeah,
Vidians.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Felt a little bit like that in terms of the aesthetic, other than the cannibalistic nature of it. And then just love, love, love that no, they're not the thorn in the side of Baraka. They're in league with him.
I wonder, and it's. I feel like modern Star Trek is a pretty buttoned up production in terms of not being leaks or dirty laundry aired. But even the best planned productions, you can get to an endpoint to go, yeah, we goofed somewhere along the way. And I'm not saying that's the case with the Furies. I do wonder, Pete, did they reach a point in the edit where they go, these masks are not good. this is not good. What do we do? We can't go back and reshoot. They appear in whatever 8, 10, 12 scenes. Oh, what if we add, and I don't know, Pete, if this is a simple effect there. I know it's not morphing guy, although we've had morphing guy in Star Trek. But to me, it strikes me as a fairly simple, for skilled people, fairly simple effect here. Also kind of scary because all of a sudden the weird faces ahead or behind, all of that. So if it's a case that you reached a point where it was too late to make a change, but now you could make a change in the edit with effects, I mean, it's great. I want to have more of the Furies. They're these nightmarish things, but also feel kind of appropriately low level. Like the Vidians. It's not the Borg. Please, let's not have a Borg finale. By the way, when in doubt, Star Trek just says, "Oh, let's make it Borg." But Pete, that's hopefully a threat we won't discuss. Let's discuss today's threat and maybe next week's threat, or this season's threat, next season's threat, Mustafa Braka.
Well, I can tell you what episode he's not in. Perhaps we'll hold that back to theories. He could be in next week's episode. Um, yeah, I mean, what can't you say about Giamatti? And for my mind here, the mistake that is consistently made with um, villain characters in Star Trek is, well, who's their big one? Who's their Darth Vader? Who's their Joker? Who's their Hannibal Lecter? All right, let's do Khan. Let's do Khan again. We're though we may not even be doing a character named Khan. Let's make this one like Khan. Okay. And rather, okay, you look at the Borg Queen and how successfully they've done that, despite some criticism a moment ago of when in doubt, do the Borg. Um, you look at what Giamatti is doing, the colors, the nuance he's bringing with Nusbraka, right? That we can have the charm, we can have the disgust at the same time, and we never know what to believe.
I can see his appeal, and again, he theoretically he could have been a co-lead, or I don't recall when his announcement was publicly, or when his involvement was publicly announced, versus who knows the private discussions. But if he could have had any role, the fact that he has chosen to come in and come out here and there, um, how freeing it must be to say, and I'm not trying to paint him as a lazy actor in any way, how freeing it must be to say, I can have it turned up all the time. I can be slightly ridiculous all the time. I don't need to be Captain Parent. I don't need to be sometimes the CEO of Academy Inc. I don't need to be sometimes a goofball when I'm having synthahol with my coworkers. Like, he can just be this guy that's scooping up every moment. I see why he made that choice, whereas other people might have said, "Okay, I want the stability of 1 season, 2 season series lead. Here's my rate." Like, to just say, I just want to go crazy with this. I'm gonna go nuts in a makeup chair with way too much prosthetics. And Pete, did you catch that he's got tic tac toe shaved into his head?
He
Um,
had in the pilot,
it's all just. I
but
mean,
it's
Pete.
wearing away. There's some stress to it,
Well,
right? Like the makeup job, which was extensive, which he signed up for. Um, but I'll just counter, this is the sixth episode, so they cast him from the start. He was offered the choice of any role on the show, and he chose this one. So he could have taken the commandant. He probably could not have taken any of the cadets. That would have been a weird way to go. It'd be like the grandma that goes back to college. Uh, but that could have been interesting in its own right. Um, so you're writing for him in this episode. You're writing for Paul Giamatti. You have him to say these words and the ability to let him say these words now, right? That's where it makes the difference. Whereas otherwise, this is a two-dimensional villain. Okay. Instead, 3-dimensional playing 4-dimensional chess.
Let's use our long range sensors to scan for some theories. Pete, where would you like to start?
What experimental tech did old Nucifer make off with from Starbase J19 Alpha?
I think part of the freedom of this time period, though we spent three, right, 3 seasons of Discovery in it. The first season
Yes.
they were kind of at the fringes of society, if you will. Um, I don't exactly know, and that is really, like I said, that's a very freeing thing. I would hope that it is something brand new, which 60 years into Star Trek, is it going to be a faster engine? Plus we've kind of done that. Is it going to be
Mm-hmm.
a better cloak? We've done that. Is it going to be, a spore drive? We've done that. It's not even faster. It's just instant. Um, I don't know, but I do love the idea that, I mean, the way this episode ends, it doesn't say to be continued, but it's all but guaranteed that we get more in 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. And presumably he's going to show on up with this tech now enabled. Um, so it's a great jumping off point for some amount of these next 4 episodes.
Well, we know he is not in 109. He is not in the first episode of the 2-part finale directed by Jonathan Frakes because he brought that up, Frakes did, on he and Brent Spiner's podcast. Don't often, mention competitors, Matt, but given that we've podcast about them on Picard and the Next Generation, and with screenwriter John Lugan, who has a meeting or had a meeting this week about Star Trek. Interestingly, that they brought up on that episode. Yeah, that Frakes mentions that he did not get to work with Giamatti on the 9th episode. Tatiana Maslany is in that episode, though, and his characterization of it is that it's very heavy.
Can I propose a possibility, which is, what if Noose Braca appears in the 9th episode, but due to scheduling or due to a variety of real world factors, his scenes were filmed as part of this, or they were filmed as part of 110, or they were simply filmed in an empty soundstage where they brought the makeup to Giamatti in Prague, or that sort of thing. Um, yes, the name of Jonathan Frakes is on the 9th episode, but again, it might be slightly splitting of hairs, but I mean, heck, Pete, we saw the beginning of the first episode, right? That had stuff that was not shot when the first episode was shot. Um,
Are
so I'm,
you proposing that two take Frakes couldn't have gotten it done there, and even with schedules and everything like that, I have to imagine it's as written and it's not they took a shortcut because Giamatti, you know, went to the south of France and filmed a indie comedy between this episode and when they did the last couple.
well, again, I'm not saying I hereby put all my Monopoly money into the idea that he's actually in 109. I'm just saying it is not impossible that in the course of the production of the first season, how about this way? It is possible that in the production of the first season, we have seen or will see things in episodes that were not shot for those episodes, or were not shot during the main production of those episodes. So I reserve my right to be right, even though I'm all in on Spoiler Pete and saying he probably doesn't show up in 109.
What will the impact of this episode be on Sam?
I Again, we all know red shirts and that use in Star Trek. So I don't mourn Tom off as much as maybe I mourn Bavi. But if you want to say we needed somebody to die in this one other than red shirt boss guy, so we backtracked Bavi for 3 episodes. That's interesting stakes too. But we all kind of know the drill. Like, okay, they brought this guy in to have him recur for a little bit so that we would kind of care when Bavi gets killed. It will be interesting to see, does the show commit, if only for an episode, to an after effect for Sam. Ditto, I would say, for Terima as well. It's slightly familiar story territory. You had a big dramatic, traumatic thing, and now you're in a coma. Okay, she's a telepath, and she was already, knocked out, so fine. But to bring back to your question about Sam, I don't know. I don't know that we need, uh, I don't know that we need an overwhelming recovery for Sam. It would be nice if in the next episode there's kind of references to that and she's kind of, knocked back a bit or has to work extra hard, or we can see other characters saying, "No, Sam, let me help you with such and such."
If you're writing a school-based drama today, one of the issues that you have to address is attendance, right? And surely something that could affect attendance is the trauma that students would endure. And to see this through the lens of Sam, this very, very young, if not technologically advanced student, would be a really interesting way to go. Um, with Tamira in the coma now, potentially impacting her school experience too. How long does she stay in that? What's the holdover from that look like?
Well, I think that maybe we get the benefit of, we, the audience, watching this scripted drama. Maybe we get the benefit of the fact that the character has merely been recurring and not in every episode. So if it's a way to kind of put her back on the shelf because you have big plans next week for the, you know, Jaden has terrible dreams episode, or whatever it might be, whatever it is, we're going to focus on someone. Um, that could be an interesting way to just say we actually don't want to deal with the romance. Or Pete, conversely, it occurs to me, maybe it's a great Caleb moment as he goes to visit her and says, "I'm so sorry I said all those terrible things." Um, a better version of that, as written by next week's writers Alex Taub and Eric Anthony Glover, I think could be compelling and universal. Um, but yeah, I think I'm a little less concerned about Tarima's medical condition keeping her from class, or her coma, to be honest. Um, although it is, let's keep filed away, Pete, and not just because Wesley Crusher had to repeat a year. It will be interesting in the life of this show. Do we have a situation where, as you were saying, Pete, due to taking time away, due to your medical condition, due to your memory damage and the relearning Sam must do, you now need to, you're a freshman when everybody else goes to sophomore year. Um, that's an interesting story tool. Maybe that's something that you reach for out of greater need than in the first season, but let's keep an eye on that one.
What's the impact moving forward of the academy having lost not just a teacher but a student?
I feel like I'm a little torn by that question because we safely on our couch kind of know, sometimes officers are lost, and then there's a scene where a captain goes, "I can't believe it was Smith. Only yesterday I was playing squash with Smith." And then by the end of the episode, they're back to being inspiring captains, and everybody's back to reset. Um, it will be interesting to see if this show deals with it differently in some way. Again, I feel like because of the compressed way that we experience television, if you do it for an episode, if it's we're all going to wear an armband for Bavi or something like that, if you do it for an episode and then people are feeling better by the end of the episode. The way I'm describing it, it sounds glib, but if next week we do that and then the following week we don't do it anymore, we're going to say, "Oh yeah, we mourned Bobby every day for like 2 weeks on our couches." So of course of course the cadets are kind of ready to heal. Um, this is a show that is sensitive to those things, and again keeps returning to highlighting these youthful characters' arcs. So it is a place, it's a source that they could do things with.
The um, words to the Delton song, Matt, fruitful coupling. What do you imagine they are like?
I think it's um, really poetic language
So
for.
this is not like Star Trek's version of a Two Life Crew song.
No, I think it is. I think it's just with poetry. Um, Pete, this morning I was listening to I don't know the exact name of the songs. I'm not good with stuff like that, but I've got a brand new pair of roller skates, and you've got the key,
Yes.
right? Like that's all about something that's not roller skating, because somebody has the key and somebody has the roller skates with the lock that they'd like the key to go in. So I imagine it's like that, but I imagine as a Delton song goes on, you're like, really? Upside down? Okay.
Well,
Really?
is that what the Deltons do? Is the secret to what Tamira shares with Caleb in that opening scene there, in stark contrast to the end of the episode, right where we're left, is the secret to the shocking thing that they do in the lyrics to "Fruitful Coupling."
I think that they are just so into the sexy times that I think it's just Pete, you thought the Betazoid weddings in the nude were shocking. I think that the average energetic, enthusiastic human going to Delta 4 probably would be exhausted pretty quickly and be like, I need to go I need to go to some pleasure planet to recharge and relax. Because yeah, I think the Deltons can wear most people out. Pete, that's why they run around with their vows of chastity and so forth, because people just can't keep up.
We got a flashback, a scrap, right? We're gonna get him again.
I think yes, I think that whenever it is that we get more of Caleb's mom, that we had wondered in the first episode, is that just kind of like, it's the teddy bear affect, and they do a little bit the technology end of it. The fact that it's come back now, yes, let it be, you know, who is this, you know, uh, scallywag who's all covered in grime and dirt? Wait, they're carrying a robotic teddy bear, and Caleb can say, Mom. Boom, cut to credits. Um, I hope it's a touchstone, and I hope Pete, I'm going to check the Star Trek shop right now. It probably isn't there yet, but maybe that's their big. Oh my goodness, Pete! Maybe that's their big, Baby Yoda thing. They're holding off until the finale and say, for sale now. Pete, what if I told you there was a scrap thing that you could buy on shop.startrek.com, not a sponsor, right now?
Like the $2,000 droid cooler that follows you that Star Wars has over on the Disney shop.
It is the Star Trek Starfleet Academy limited edition 3-pin set. That's right, pins you can put on your jacket, each the size, perhaps a bit bigger than a quarter coin. There is scrap, there is the Academy logo, circular, and there's the Academy word logo. Pete, how much do you think it costs to pre-order the Star Trek Starfleet Academy limited edition 3-pin set.
It's probably a $25 set there. Oof.
$42.95.
Ooh. Tariffs?
Um, Beat
Space
undoubtedly,
tariffs?
space tariffs, indeed. So there you go. I mean, again, I know I'm having my cake and eating it too. It's really cool, the merch that's on here. It's cool that they have an Academy collection. I don't know that 3 pins for $43 are going to go flying off the shelves, but hey, spend your gold press latinum how you want to spend it.
Don't need pins that bad. Matt, the criticism of the Tales from the Frontier comic book, people attempting to say it was made with AI, um, looked uh, fittingly like the IDW comic style that they've had the last decade.
I mean, I I think of all the quote unquote low level behind the scenes people that in any production, particularly one in a science fiction genre that require uh, graphic artists and kind of just pen and pencil type stuff to go, great, give me 10 designs for the new, weapon. Okay, and we'll choose the best one. I guess what I'm trying to say is, Pete, I have a hard time believing they couldn't just go to one of those people and go, who here can draw an okay comic book? Great. We need 8 pages of comic book, and the basic story is they go out and they do Star Trek stuff, and don't make it Kirk or this or that. Make it, here's our background on Captain Chi. Like, here's literally a sentence on each person. The story doesn't even need to be cohesive across the 8 pages. Just make it, Star Trek, bing, bang, boom. Is it really that difficult for what's being asked? I'm not saying comics are easy. I'm just saying, is it really that difficult to draw 6 squares on a page and draw some Star Trek guys and gals and folks running around? Um, Conversely, Pete, could I completely believe that somebody higher up was like, I don't know, Chat GPT, make me a Star Trek comic book. Make the captain named Chi, and he's Asian. Um, So I believe it either way. This is one to watch, Pete. This is not a nothing issue here, particularly with this increased dialogue of AI in the creative space.
I think we have artists who are passionate enough about this show that they would have found a way to have other artists make it rather than to have the thing that could hasten further loss of jobs and the end of careers. Uh, yeah, so that's a very real concern. Um, get to move the Crag Kyle ship forward a little bit in this episode.
Yeah, and I would include it as part of the observation I've made a few times now, that they keep checking in with these characters, and it's not kind of like fully serial in terms of like, now this is the episode where we get to find out why the doctor is so sad, or things of that sort. But it just feels like this organic check-in. They happen to be on the same mission because narrative convenience. But Kyle gets hurt, and that's just enough for Crag to be concerned about him, for there to be hand on hand for a moment. Um, if anything, Pete, I appreciate that versus like, this is the special episode where Star Trek explores what if there were two gay guys in love, and by the end of it, I don't know, but this is the very special gay guy episode versus they're checking in there. We got, it's in a certain lovely sense, and it's well presented, and I'm dramatically on board. But in a certain lovely sense, it's as unimportant as any of the other small moments here. Will Sam be okay or not? Guess what? They're not killing off Sam. She's going to be okay eventually. Um, will Caleb continue to work with the group or to be an independent guy? Like, it's just character growth
Mm-hmm.
that is really nice.
It's been subtle, and I appreciate that, and it's been across multiple episodes as well. For the first time, we've gotten confirmation on where Ake draws her lanthanite heritage, that courtesy her father, Matt, maybe a flashback, bring in a heavy hitter to play dad and what she learned from him.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it all season that I think, and my goodness, Pete, we saw what I've been saying. We saw it last week in terms of bringing in an established Star Trek actor last week, Tony Newsom, to play somebody different. Um, I would prefer that with her with Ake's father versus like surprise. Actually, Chekhov was a Lanthanite all along. Um, but yeah, have somebody else come in. I know the Lanthanites fine; they look human, but whatever it is, like you could get it sorted out, or you could get a Star Trek prosthetic actor to now be in human form, saying, hey, I'm the dad, and I'm flashback, or I'm as equally long lived, or whatever it might be. You know, it's not fan service when it works, and the Star Trek family is big enough that we would be happy to be like, good old Armin Shimmerman, there he is here, no makeup, no quark, no false teeth, there he is, just playing a guy, playing a dad in the flashback scene. Um, Whoever it might be, it would work, and I say bring it on.
The mention of the Discovery there and that it's happened a couple times, you have to wonder if that cavalry can ever get called for. We know that we wouldn't get some of the big stars, although certainly possible that a couple others could pop up there. But interesting that we get the shout out in yet another episode.
Well, Pete, I remember the July 27th, 2024 article in Variety headlined Starfleet Academy adds Star Trek alums Robert Picardo and Tig Notaro as series regulars, Mary Wiseman and Oded Fehr to get as guest stars.
She's in one episode.
I I think her presence was perhaps reduced since that news
But
broke.
remember, she's not on the Discovery. She's an instructor at the Academy.
Well, I agree. I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like the Discovery verse, or the Discovery end of this portion of the timeline, maybe there was the desire for a bigger bite back when these casting choices were made, etc., back in the pre-production portion. Um, and I will grant you, okay, Vance as guest star, and then you want to say by the time it's all done, he's guest starred in, 4 or 5 or 6 episodes. Which, Pete, technically, when it's more than 50%, you're not a guest star, you're recurring, at least for Emmy consideration. But I digress. Um, where To your question, where's Discovery, and will it show up? I think if we can use Mary Wiseman's participation as a template, perhaps they had plans for something bigger, something more, and along the way they said, actually, you know what? We can just kind of it's a big galaxy, and if we have a couple of references here and there, it's a big enough galaxy that we don't need to do the team up, the update. And oh, by the way, we struck those sets. Yikes, we struck those sets after we filmed the future lauded and beloved Star Trek Section 31 movie. Um, so we'll see. I do know this, Pete. To bring it back to Mary Wiseman, we got 4 episodes left. One of them is the one with her. We'll see how big a role, little, important, unimportant it is. With that, Pete, let's open hailing frequencies.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
To the Twitter poll we go, Pete. And did it get 1 star? Meh. That got 20%. 2 stars, all the yells, 0%. 3 stars, a good outing, 20%. Or 4 stars, epic. That got 60%. And 1 reply on Twitter/X this week from It's Twitter Not Life at KCLYLE1, who says, thoughts: the sex scene was completely unnecessary. The Braca Ake scene is as long, but Giamatti was amazing. The Digital Dean wasn't as annoying in this episode. The
I didn't
tone,
hear him.
I think there was just one, and it was truly like, prepare red team and blue team, green team on standby. There was no like,
Okay.
blah, 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 green team is green like apples, So maybe they're figuring it out too. He goes on to say the tone shift from last episode to this one is stark, but this was great Trek, and people who didn't give it a chance for whatever stupid reason are missing out. Um, I I appreciated the tone shift. I
Uh-huh.
don't think he's complaining about it either, but I appreciate that this can be anything within reason, but this can be all sorts of flavors any given week.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're quite at 20% of a meh, but yeah, people speak their mind.
What feedback do you have, Pete?
Over on the Phantastic Geek subreddit, Matt Kips247 writes, "Sixth episode, my favorite so far. Nucifer is a great baddie. The no-face aliens felt familiar with the popping slash clicking sounds and the phasing in and out. They finally found use for Betazoid powers. Great ending and easily the best episode. Hopefully kicks the series into the next gear now."
Ooh, yeah, it will be interesting to see to whatever degree this is an ongoing story episode, a serial episode. Um, is this a tone moving forward, or is this a check in with this kind of story? And next week it's a bit more upbeat, and then Braca comes back in the future, that sort of thing. But to the email inbox we go, and first we hear from Rick, who says, I found your podcast on Star Trek Starfleet Academy and have been listening to it from the beginning. I find it interesting and fun. Your shows are well thought out and making me smile. Thank you. Just wanted you to know how much I look forward to it each week. That is from Rick Moyer, who, by his email signature, is a night rocker on KDUX 104.7 out of Washington State, Pete.
Thank you, Rick, and some love there from somebody in the industry. So must be doing something right.
Next email comes from Dustin, whose subject is Starfleet Academy Episode 6. But Pete, it's Starfleet with a PH, which I think is maybe the first time I've seen it, certainly the first time it's been in an email subject line. He says, fellas, with a PH, the family and I were not offended by the opening scene of Episode 6 per se. It was a bit of a shock early this morning to see that, and I'll admit, I like my Trek with less skin. It was nice that the powerful connection Mir and Terima formed in the teaser ended up supporting the fun Chekhov's space bat screech later in the episode to explode some baddies' heads. Paul Giamatti and Holly Hunter were both excellent. I love the amount they are both leaning into the characters. Truly impressive and enjoyable over-the-top character acting. The twisted evil and level of violence capable of Nusbraka is at a whole new level for Star Trek TV. I'll use this note to offer up that, in my opinion, in real life, Star Trek comics have been very strong over the past few years, and I really enjoyed how they were made a story device in this episode. They deserve on-screen acknowledgement. For folks who don't read them, they are excellent in the way they start with canonical characters and crews, but are able to just push situations way outside of canon and beyond what can be done in the series, and they are excellent quality extra Trek that I highly recommend. Between the comic appearing and the helping train, and helping train the Zora-esque sentient computer, Paul Giamatti playing with a model of the NX-01, I think, let me know if not, Dustin, it was. I actually enjoyed the merchandise tie-in personally, as long as they don't overdo it. I'm okay with this episode's playing with kids stuff. Stay fantastic, guys. That from Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin. Yeah, we forgot to mention that during the recap there with the Enterprise model. I wonder if Giamatti was into Enterprise. No, he was a big Deep Space Nine guy.
I would politely, slightly disagree with Dustin that it was like the merchandising moment. I felt it was more of a nod. That said, I'm sure you could easily find a pewter NX-01 out there, but I mean, unless I'm wrong, Pete, the comic Tales from the Frontier, that is completely made for this episode. That is not a tie-in. It might get you thinking about Star Trek comics in general, but you can't go out and buy that.
As I understand it, it is merely a product of this episode. But it's
Um,
been some time since I've read their comics.
it's funny. I overall though, I want to agree with Dustin. Like, let's not overdo it with the merchandising. And I think of in the past where it's been like, look, here's the disco shirt. Go buy the disco shirt. Flip side, Pete. Let's just all remember that the IDIC symbol, this great summation of infinite diversity and infinite combination, was because Gene Roddenberry wanted to sell merchandise through his side company, Lincoln Projects, Lincoln something. He wanted to sell merch, and it led to shutting down during shooting, like shutting down for an hour while the while William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy said, "We are not selling your jewelry on TV. We need to come up with a way that this all makes sense." So, if there are merch opportunities, certainly, if Gene used to do it, we could slip in a pewter NX-01 or a disco T-shirt or whatever else, I suppose. But now, Pete, let's hear from Admiral Fred in the Netherlands.
Hello, Matt and Pete, and all listeners to Phantastic Geek. This is Fred from the Netherlands with a little feedback for Star Trek Starfleet Academy Season 1, Episode 6. Wow, first 4 minutes were quite sexy. Did we ever see a kind of sexy nudity scene in Star Trek ever for this length? And it was very clear what they were doing there, so not like, okay, you see two people having a cigarette in bed, which is a metaphor for, okay, they had sex. Later on, we understand why we needed this, because Terima had to have a very strong connection to someone to be able to do what she did at the ending of the episode. No character-centric episode this time, but fortunately one of my predictions came true, because I predicted that at a certain point the War College and the Academy students had to work together in a stressful situation and save each other's asses. I think Nusbraka is a great villain and intelligent. If you see the discussion or the assault kind of or psychological rape he tries on Nala Akka, you see his intelligence and sneakiness. They created a villain of higher intelligence here, although you wouldn't say it if you see him. Okay, that will be all for this time. Greetings, all the best, Fred from the Netherlands.
Thank you, as always, Fred. And while on the one hand, I will agree that this is more bedroom sensuality than is oftentimes in Star Trek, I do remember a Discovery episode, season 1. Pete, I had to look up a little Dutch here. It did feature some full-on Klingon Borsten. Fred and others in the know may recall that. It was a Klingon lady in flagrante with no T-shirt. I will say this, Pete. Look, I was not offended by the nudity. I didn't think it was over the top, etc. It did cross my mind, especially in this week. I was not a Dawson's Creek guy, but the loss of James Van Der Beek and that kind of style of sappy teen show that was on 20-25 years ago. I wonder how much this week's episode of Star Trek featured more than would have been on broadcast TV back in the day. But I do wonder how many smoochy, kissy, similar scenes there were. You then, upscale for streaming and upscale for the modern times or whatever. But Pete, no, nobody got too I don't know, too offended, I hope, by this episode.
I mean, they maintained a rating, right? They didn't go to an R or anything like that. Probably posted someplace, right? So people weren't walking into it as a shock, although you had the big strobe warning on there that was prominent that I didn't certainly notice in the episode more than normal. So yeah, I think they wanted to get your attention, as Fred said there. Not metaphor.
Well, Pete, we look forward to keeping this Starfleet Academy conversation going week in, week out for gasp. Is it really only 4 weeks left for this first season? But Pete, as we said at the top of the podcast, a second season coming, might be a year away, but But Pete, this journey made possible by those who support us on patreon.com/fantasticgeek.
Yes, everybody who contributes gets access to exclusive content, all sorts of levels to check out, but it takes just $1 a month to get you in that door. Can't contribute right now? You can go to Apple Podcasts. You can leave us a rating or review to any of those 40 plus podcast feeds. Help us just as much without paying a dime.
And Pete, let's keep the pop culture conversation going, whether it is Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, or DC. How can people be in touch with you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Threads. You can find me on Blue Sky at Peter, Pieterj Hatelar, Ketelar, 12,600. Remember, our followers can't be wrong.
And while I'm personally on Twitter as Looking Back Lost, do be in touch with the podcast. Comment on fantasticgeek.com. Check us out on Twitter, Threads, Gmail, Instagram, Blue Sky. But wait, Pete, there's even more.
Facebook.com/FantasticGeek with the PH, all one word. And then don't sleep on the Fantastic Geek subreddit at r/FantasticGeek.
Pete, looking forward to next week's discussion about Starfleet Academy, whether you're listening on the Pop Culture Podcast feed or the Starfleet Academy feed. That is where we'll be next week for the next episode. With that, I will say adios to all listeners and give you, Pete, the final word.
Class dismissed.